Hello fancy people, how are you guys doing today? I hope you guys are having a beautiful, fabulous, productive week. Welcome back to my channel, fancy people. And if you're new to my channel, go ahead and click subscribe so you can join us on this amazing journey to figure out how to design a fancy life. So today's video is something that I've been wanting to share with you guys for a very, very long time. Ever since I even started my YouTube channel, I've been wanting to tell this story. I think it's really quite amazing and crazy. So I'm just going to get straight into it. If you haven't seen the video, go ahead and watch the video. I have a detailed video explaining exactly how I even got in this place, how I even got in there without having any money to begin with. Alright, so you can go watch that video so that way this video kind of makes sense a little bit, and then come back, or not watch it and then watch it after, whatever you want to do. You know, the first day that I moved in, I was sending everybody, all my friends, my dad, my brother, thank you guys for coming, thank you for helping me, thank you, close the door behind them, bye guys. And I turned around and I walked up the stairs, and I jumped in my bed, and the first thing I thought was, wow, thank you God for helping me get into this place. How am I going to pay my rent next month? That was the first thing that came to my mind. That was the first thing I immediately started worrying about because, you know, like God, He told me to go there. He told me to pack my things. He told me that I was going to be able to, you know, move into this place. That was my dream apartment. God, it was so beautiful. And I just felt so discouraged after I was in there. You know, I felt so confident, you know, going in. But once I was there, I was kind of just like, so I literally started talking myself into circles and started getting a little bit like depressed and sad and scared. And then I kind of was like, okay, wait, hold on. Get it together, Clarece. That is not who you are. You did not come here for this reason or whatever. So I told myself, okay, it's time to start thinking strategically. So I'm like, okay, first thing, the only amount of money or the only source of income that I had was when I was in high school. My dad had set up an allowance for me. So he basically put $25 into my account for me every single week. So at the end of the month, I would have $25 a week is $100. So I knew, and he had never turned it off. So I was like, okay, as long as he doesn't turn that off, oh geez. As long as he doesn't turn that off, I have $100 at the end of the month. My rent was approximately $670 a month. And then I also had to pay the electricity bill, which would be probably about $40 once we split it with my other roommates. So, okay, so I knew that I would have $100. But then, so now I'm like, okay, $670 minus $100 is $570. Okay, let's do this, Clarece. So then I'm like, okay, well, it stops there. And then reality kind of set in. And I realized that there were so many other things that I had to pay for. I had to pay for, obviously, food. How am I going to feed myself? I had to pay for gas. How am I going to go to interviews to get a job? I had to pay for necessities, toilet paper, broom, all of these things that I did not have because I just moved into an apartment, my first apartment ever. I started freaking out because I was holding on to this idea of having $100, but I couldn't spend any of that money, right? So when it came to paying for all of those things, I didn't really worry about it. And I will make a totally separate video about how I fed myself, how I got around, how I even managed to go to interviews, how I paid for gas, how I got anywhere, how I ate, all that stuff. I'm gonna make a whole separate video for that because that is in itself a testimony. But today we're just gonna focus on the rent part. So I did not touch that $100. And I knew that I wasn't going to touch it because that was the only thing that I securely had. And then, so for weeks or for days at a time, I would really freak out about it. You know, I would be hanging out with my friends in the back of my mind. I'm thinking, yeah, I'm having such a good time. How am I going to pay for rent? I was just really freaking out, but I didn't want to live in fear. And I didn't want to live in stress. So A couple weeks went by, I'm kind of forgetting about it, you know, kind of just like living, doing my thing, surviving, trying to eat. And it was probably about like the last week, I had a conversation with my roommate, and we were just casually talking, and she casually, you know, just asked me a question. She was like, oh, which promotion did you opt in for? Did you do the free car parking, or did you do the 1 month free rent? And I said, what? One month free rent? And she was like, yeah, they just take the money that you would end up paying for your car parking spot, add it all together, and deduct that from 1 month's rent. And I was like, wait a minute. Because, now backtrack, for me, I had signed my lease way before she had. So the promotion she was talking about, I had no idea about. You know, sometimes apartments do like, oh, if you sign up now, or you sign up before September, you get 1 month's free rent, or you get this much, or you get this, or whatever. That was basically what she was talking about. And I had opted in for the free parking spot. The parking spot cost about $35 a month. So basically they took, you know, I didn't have to pay for that. Or what she had, which was they took $35, times it by 12, which is about $420, $430, and deducted that from your rent. What? So for me, I was like, I felt like that was the way that I could go about doing this. But I was a little afraid, because if you watch my first video, you know the lady from the leasing office doesn't really like me, and she probably doesn't really trust me either at this point. And I didn't want to bother her with something so heavy like this, right? So I kind of kept that in the back of my mind, and this was like the last week. So I had like only so much time to figure out what I can do. There was nights where I would lay down and I would really just have conversations with myself and tell myself, you know what, Clarece, you have to, you know, be kicked out of your apartment, you know, do it with dignity, and just go silently, don't tell anybody. So by the time of the last week of the month, I had probably about like $900, right? Let's say that I had $100, because I didn't spend any of that, because it would go into my savings account, and I told myself that I would not touch it. I had my $100, and my friend had gave me, I think it was about $25 for my birthday. So I had $125. It was probably about 4 or 3 more days until I had to pay my rent. I went this long without gathering any more money than I could. It was already such a struggle, and you'll see in the other video, for feeding myself, just taking care of myself alone without touching the money that I had for my rent. And so I had $125, and I specifically remember one day I was taking a shower, and I was so scared because I only had probably about 3 days to pay my rent. I was so scared, and I was so sad, and I was so disappointed in myself, and I just couldn't wrap my head around the fact that I was going to have to get kicked out of my apartment. And then it hit me. And God was like, remember the rental promotion? And I was like, wait a minute. Do you want me to go down there and ask that woman who hates me and probably is waiting for me to get kicked out of this apartment to go and ask her boss, of which she's already afraid to talk to change something that I signed under my lease? I waited till the last days of the month to do something like that, and literally, I could just hear God saying, just go. Clarece, stop talking, just go. So I got out of the shower, I got dressed, and the whole time I'm getting dressed, I'm like low-key talking myself out of it, and kind of like getting even more anxious and getting more anxious. My palms are sweating, I'm lotioning up, but the lotion's not staying. I'm getting dressed, and now I'm actually walking down the steps, and every single step I took, I was just so nervous. The whole time I walked over there, every step I took, I was praying, and I just said, God, speak through me. Open her ears to hear what I'm saying. Open her eyes to see what I'm going through. and give her the understanding to understand where I'm coming from. You know, just trying to just like set the mood, because I don't want to go in there and be embarrassed again. Just please. So I walk in, you know, I kind of sigh out. I'm like, so I walk in, I sit down, and I'm just like, hey Jennifer, hey girl. She's like, hi. And I was like, okay, I have a little question to ask you, like kind of like a little favor. She was like, yeah, what's up? And I'm like, okay, so you know how rent is due in about 3 days? She was like, and you could just see the look on her face, like, yeah. I was like, okay, you know how that like promotion that you guys were having, probably just like for the beginning of this month, for the, you know, the free month rent, the, you know, one month free rent. She was like, yeah. I was like, I was just wondering, I wanted to know if I could just switch out my free parking spot for that instead. And she was like, you know, filing her papers, doing her desk, and she looked at me, she said, oh yeah, no problem. I'll send it over to my boss and I'll have it done in the morning. So that means that, so that's $420, $670 minus 420. That means you have to pay $250 for rent in 3 days, okay? And I was like, okay, no problem. Thank you, Jennifer. You're welcome, Clarece. Bye. I ran out of that leasing office like there was no tomorrow. I was so excited. And of course, I was like, thank you. Thank you. So excited. So I go back to my room and I'm crunching numbers. So I have $250 left. I needed $125 to pay my rent. So I had to start thinking strategically again, obviously. So I went back to the basics, and I just thought about people who I know care for me and people that I know that I could pay back. So I texted one of my friends and asked him if he could lend me $125. And you know how humiliating it is to ask people for money, but I paid my rent, I paid my rent, and I paid my rent on time. So that, my friends, the moral of the story is to be really good to your friends and keep a good rapport with your friends. Not so that way you can use them, but so that way when you do need them for things like that, they love you enough and trust you enough to know that A, you'll pay them back, and to know that B, even if you don't pay them back, you're my friend and I love you and I want to help you, and they will be able to do that for you. So that is the beauty of having amazing friends and people who can trust you. Really, of course, you know, I have to end with a good note, but really in life, you know, a lot of people can judge and they can say a lot of things about my situation. I'm determined, and even though, and I'm also human, and sometimes I make mistakes, and sometimes I jump straight into things without, you know, having a backup plan. But the fun thing, the crazy thing about it is, in life, you know, you kind of just have to move in faith. Walk by faith, not by sight. And that's literally my life motto, and that's one thing that I really want to drive home with you guys on our journey to design a fancy life is, A, you don't always have to have all the answers. B, you don't always have to have everything before you get started. So I really hope you guys enjoyed my story, and definitely subscribe if you haven't subscribed to our channel to hear more stories about my crazy life, and also to hear tips and tricks to get inspiration about you, your life, where you're going, and just fun stuff as well. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Go ahead and subscribe and follow me on all my social media accounts. You can find all that stuff in the link down in the description box. And I love you guys, and you guys continue to design a fancy life for yourselves. Live boldly, have faith, and be good to your friends and family, because you never know when you're going to need them. Alright guys, I love you, and bye!